What's up, YouTube? Capital G. Going to talk about Speedy Steve's top 16 junk Doppel deck that he ran at the British Nationals. Now, this is a deck that people have basically left for dead. So many people thought when they lost Glow Bulb and Spore, the deck was basically dead on arrival. And I don't really think that's the case. Yes, the deck lost its ability to make synchros without using its normal summon. Yes, you could make synchros without using your normal summon. You could essentially, in a lot of cases, make them for free. You could combo even more. Quasar hitting the field was very, very, very easy. Not that it's that hard now, but it just got even more crazy when you added Hyper Librarian. Not only were you making synchros for free, but then you were drawing in addition. The thing about this deck is it reminds me exactly of windups right now. People have basically convinced themselves into the fact that the deck doesn't even exist because they don't see it very often. Then you play against the deck and you realize it's much like Heretic or it's much like Windup. When the deck gets started, it gets rolling, it's like, well, you're looking at these big explosive results where either this deck's going to pick 4 cards out of my hand, or this deck's going to OTK me, or it's going to put a Quasar on the field and it's going to be like, oh my goodness, what do we do against this? You know what I mean? And the guy runs 11 tuners, so, stuff like Shooting Star Dragon, it hits the field. He might be able to attack 5 times with that damn thing. Okay, let's go over his deck list. 3 copies of Junk Synchron, 2 copies of Quick Draw Synchron, 2 copies of Doppel Warrior, 1 copy of Unknown Synchron, 1 copy of Turbo, 2 copies of Level Eater, 2 copies of Ryko, 1 copy of Lila, 1 copy of Dandelion, 1 copy of Synchron Explorer, 1 BLS, 1 Gores, and 1 Dark Samorg. 3 copies of Effect Veiler, 3 copies of Tuning, 1 copy of Rhoda, 1 copy of Dark Hole, 1 Mind Control, 1 Monster Reborn, 1 copy of Avarice, 1 Heavy Storm, 1 Charge of Light Brigade, Creature Swap, and Forbidden Lands. For his traps, he's got the Solemn Brigade, and then he basically has utility 1-ofs. Call of the Haunted, Evac, and Fiendish Chain. Call of the Haunted and Evac are pretty much just there because this deck doesn't really take a whole lot of time to get set up. It's like windups where everything you want is to work with another card. You don't want cards that only work with each other. So in essence, after turn 2, I mean, you've almost certainly already have a big play, on the board, or you can set up for a big play. Call of the Haunted is a card that, it gives you more opportunities to explode if your opponent would, use something like Effect Veiler. One of the cards that instantly it jumped off the page at me when I saw it was Dark Samorg. I think that this might have been the smartest choice in his entire deck, because you think about Dark Samorg, okay, well, you need a Wind monster and you need a Dark monster. His deck is already loaded with Darks because he has the Doppels and he has the Junks. But in addition, Wind monsters they're not that easy to find, but the fact that Quick Draw is Wind and the fact that Turbo Synchron is Wind, and you can pull Turbo Synchron straight from the deck with Road Warrior, they're not that hard to get to. I mean, you have 3 copies of Tuning, you have Rhoda, you can get to these monsters turn 1 consistently, and that's the key to this deck. And the thing about this deck is, once you get Shooting Star or Quasar, the one thing that you don't want to have your opponent do is basically say set, setting a whole bunch of cards trying to play that defense game. What you want is for them to try and front you and to try and have to beat over your Quasar or beat over your Shooting Star, and that's not very easy. Again, Shooting Star can OTK your opponent because he plays 11 tuners, so there's a very good chance that thing will be able to attack 2 to 3 times. And Quasar, we all know how much of a behemoth that card is. So when he gets Dark Samorg on the field, which is very easy because Quick Draw and Junk Synchron and all these cards are going to hit the field quick, it can be a problem for his opponent if they have traps in their hand. Another thing that I really liked about his deck is he took a page out of Chaos Dragons and he ran like a small Lightsworn engine. 2 copies of Ryko, 1 copy of Lila. Not only does this give him outs to, tricky cards like Lagia, which might be a problem if he doesn't have like an Effect Veiler because he doesn't play a lot of traps, so it might be a problem getting something like that off the board. But in addition, it gives him spell and trap removal. He doesn't run any MSCs now, so these cards are all spell and trap removal. At the same time, it gives him the ability to run Charge of the Light Brigade so that maybe you mill that Level Eater, or you mill that Synchron Explorer, or you mill that Dandelion. Milling any one of those cards, I mean, that can be the difference between, maybe a duel that your opponent can get back in, or a duel that you flat out steal because, oop, I milled my level eater, and I had quick draw on the field. Guess what? Now I'm about to combo out and put something big on the field, and you're going to be looking real mad. Another good card that I thought was really smart in here was Creature Swap. Creature Swap is definitely an ace card in here because let's say your opponent has that big, you know, Red Eyes Metal Darkness or Light Pulsar or something like that. You summon Junk Synchron, and you know, me personally, if this deck summons Junk Synchron, I want to stop it because I know that bad things are about to happen to me. And if they use the Effect Veiler, guess what? You've got Creature Swap locked and loaded, ready to swap your little Junk Destroyer, or excuse me, your little Junk Synchron for their big ass boss monster. And even if your opponent doesn't Veiler that, then you can just give them something crappy like an Effect Veiler or a Level Eater or something like that. Not to mention, Level Eater can come out pretty much at any given point in this game, and you can just Creature Swap it to him. So that's a really good card. Now, I do have Shooting Quasar here. He wasn't able to run that because I guess it's not legal in Europe, but obviously you run it, and you know, if you play in North America or you play in the Japanese meta, you'd run it. But when I look at this deck, I think of a deck that really has that explosive power, much like Heretics or Windups, where people have convinced themselves that the deck isn't really that relevant. Even more so about this deck is because it hasn't seen a ton of play on like the YCS level. A lot of people don't know how to play against it. So you summon Junk Synchron, and your graveyard may only have like one monster in it, and they're thinking you can't do much. Then you drop a Doppel. Then you end up summoning like an Unknown Synchron or a Turbo Warrior from your deck, and it's like, oh my goodness, your opponent is just going to be sitting there looking real salty. So another thing I like about this deck is, and it's not really relevant to the competitiveness, but it is cheap. I mean, outside of BLS, can you show me another card in this entire deck that costs more than $10? I mean, Junk's BLS and Quasar are pretty much the only things in this deck that cost over $10. Everything else is common to my knowledge. So yeah, this is definitely a deck that you can pick up basically out of the common box at your locals. So anyways, I hope that you guys like this video. Maybe you've got a new appreciation for Synchros, because apparently they're not dead. He didn't run any black cards. And this looks like an interesting deck. I might have to build this and test this out. Thank you for watching as always. Click and add.